the Joe Biden administration has launched or upgraded several multilateral initiatives since January 2021, including the Quad, AUKUS, and the I2U2. Hello and welcome to the In Focus series section of Drishti IAS. I am Aisha Singh, and in today's video we will be discussing about the first ever summit of I2U2 that is taking place. So let's see the timeline of the video. First we will be knowing that what is the news, then what is I2U2 grouping, and its first ever summit that is taking place, what is its agenda, aim of I2U2, and what is its significance and what is its significance for India. Then we will be looking at Abraham Accords. In the end we will be looking into a prelims MCQ and a mains practice question. So this topic is of relevance from General Studies Paper 2, groupings and agreements. From prelims point of view, it is important to know that who all are the members of I2U2, where the summit is taking place, and who all are the countries who are involved in the Abraham Accord. While from mains perspective, it is important to know about the aim of I2U2 and its significance for India. So let's start and see the news. This news has been taken from the explained section of Indian Express, and it reads that what is I2U2 that is holding its first ever leaders summit today. So today here means 14th of July. So there are two components in it. First, what is I2U2, which is holding its first ever summit. See, this is the tweet which is given by ANI, and it says that from India's side, PM Modi will be participating in the summit along with Israel Prime Minister, UAE President and US President Joe Biden. The first leaders summit of I2U2 will be held virtually. It means it is not being held in person. It is being held virtually on 14th of July 2022. So what is I2U2? See, I2 and U2. I2 stands for India and Israel, while U2 stands for UAE and US. So in I2U2 there are in total 4 countries: India, Israel, UAE and the US. And Ahmed Al-Banna, that is the ambassador of the UAE to India, has called I2U2 as the West Asian Quad. So when the I2U2 grouping actually came into place, it was in October 2022 that a meeting of the foreign ministers of all 4 respective countries took part, and that they met in person in Israel, and from India's side External Affairs Minister participated. So in the starting, initially it was not called I2U2, initially it was called the International Forum for Economic Cooperation, and it is also called the West Asian Quad. So what is Quad? Quad is a strategic security dialogue between 4 countries. And what are those 4 countries? That is US, Australia, India and Japan. Quad means 4 countries, and these 4 countries are Australia, Japan, US and India, and it is a strategic security dialogue. So let's see in this map the 4 countries of I2U2 is, see, this is United States in the North American continent, then this comes the India in Asia, then if we look at the Middle East, that is this part, then this is Israel. If you will be able to see, I'll just show you another map also. This is Israel and this is UAE. So UAE is on southern part, it shares its borders with Saudi Arabia. So if you will be see this map, this is the Middle East part or the West Asia, this is Israel and this is UAE. While America and India's location you will be able to locate easily, India and America. So this is Israel and this is UAE. So what is the summit's agenda? What is I2U2 summits, which is being held for the very first time? What is its agenda? So the countries will be talking about current food security challenge which is going on, that after the pandemic the food security became a major issue, as there was emergency in every country because of the pandemic. Then they will also be talking on a 2 billion project for setting up of agricultural parks in India, which will be funded by the UAE, and Israel will also give its help in the technological expertise for the initiative for setting up of agricultural parks in India. And the private sector of US will also be giving its input in this 2 billion project. Then comes, what is the aim of I2U2 grouping? See, this is India, US, Israel and UAE. So what is the aim of I2U2 grouping? See, its aim is to discuss common areas of mutual interest. So they will be discussing all the things in which all 4 countries will be mutually interested, and they will know that okay, all the 4 countries have their own say in it. To strengthen, to make it strong, economic partnership in trade and investment in our respective regions and beyond. So they will be looking to strengthen the economic partnerships in trade where their mutual interest will lie. Then they will also encourage joint investments in 6 sectors, that is water, energy, transportation, space, health and food security. So in these 6 sectors they will mutually be having joint investments. Then the private sector capital and expertise will also be helpful in modernizing infrastructure, explore low carbon development avenues for industry, as we all know that industry is one of the major polluting agents that we have. So low carbon development avenues will be set up for industries. Then improvement of public health. After the COVID pandemic, public health has become a major concern for all the countries, that if even in future something like the COVID pandemic comes, then we should be prepared enough to handle the emergency in future. Then promote the development of critical emerging and green technologies. So these are the aims of I2U2 grouping, the mutual aim of all the countries. Now what is the significance of I2U2? That is, what is the importance of I2U2? That is, first is security cooperation. See, what is happening is, if you will see, the Indo-Pacific is so much in news nowadays, and the US or the America's strategy since last few years has also been revolving around the Indo-Pacific region. And in Indo-Pacific region, India is also one of the major players, or the one of the dominant powers. So if India and US will collaborate or will work together, then it will be helpful to keep a dominant nature over the Indo-Pacific. While on the other hand, there is China, and we all know what Russia is doing nowadays, that Russia is showing aggression. So it is important to have a hold over the Indo-Pacific. So that is for security cooperation. Then the technological hub. See, all the 4 countries of I2U2, see, economically, if we will see, then America is the biggest economy, while India possesses one of the biggest manpower, and we all know that Israel is so good when it comes to technology, and UAE is an upcoming economy. So all the 4 countries are technological hub in itself, so they can bring positives of their own goods, and it can help mutually, and they can reach to even better technologies. Then working together in different fields like technology, trade, climate, fighting against COVID-19 and security. Security nowadays has become a very prominent figure. See, be it Indo-Pacific, be it Pacific, be it Europe, Russia and Ukraine, then Russia's invasion of Crimea also earlier. So security has become a very prominent figure in today's time. Then what is the significance of I2U2 for India? That how I2U2 will be beneficial for India. First is advantage from Abraham Accords. So what is Abraham Accord? This very much remains in news. What is Abraham Accord? What all countries are associated with Abraham Accords? Okay, Abraham Accord is about countries which are in Middle East. So this is a peace agreement on which is mediated by the US. One side is Israel, on the other side it's UAE and Bahrain. So it's a peace agreement between UAE, Bahrain and Israel on the other hand. So by signing of the Abraham Accord, deepen engagement with Israel without risking. See, without risking is important word. Without risking its ties with the UAE and Arab states. See, earlier what used to happen, that Israel was not in good terms with all other Middle Eastern or the Western Asian countries. So what used to happen, that if a country, it used to become difficult for a country to solve things diplomatically, that if one will take side with this country, then these country will not be on good terms. If some will take side of these countries, then this country will not be on good terms. But now after signing of the Abraham Accord, then without risk, ties with the UAE and other Arab states are taking place. Then benefit of market. So India is a massive consumer market. As we all know, we have such huge population. We are one of the biggest markets. Not even one of the, now we will be becoming one biggest market. So it's a massive producer of high tech and highly sought after goods as well, because India is also turning into a manufacturing hub. Then comes the alliances. Then I2U2 will help India in building alliances, that is political alliance and social alliance. See, political alliance will take place if because there are 4 countries, and if you will be having a good relation with US, then there are countries with which you will also have good relations, because US is the biggest economy, US is the biggest superpower. Then if US will have good relations with India, there are many more countries which will also have good relations with India, and it is the goodwill of India that will also be prevailing in the globally. Then come the Abraham Accord. See this map. So Abraham Accord talks about Israel, UAE and Bahrain, and this peace agreement is mediated by the US. So Abraham Accord is between Israel, UAE and Bahrain, and the mediator in this is the US. So this is a peace agreement. And after signing of the Abraham Accord, what has happened is the exchange of ambassadors in embassies are taking place, while with working together with Israel across a range of sectors has become possible, like tourism, trade, healthcare and security. See, again security is coming everywhere. Then the UAE has become only the third. This is an important point. You can even write it in your answers also, and from prelims also it is important. First to know that which all countries are associated with Abraham Accord, and then UAE became the third Arab country after Egypt. So Egypt was the first one, and Jordan is the third one, and Jordan is the second one, and UAE is the third one. So UAE became the third Arab country after Egypt and Jordan to agree to formally normalize its relationship with Israel. See, they are agreeing to normalize their relations with Israel. It means before signing of this accord, the relations with the Israel was not normal. Just to normalize their relations, this accord was signed. So after signing of the Abraham Accord, it became easy, and it became the Israel, UAE and Israel on the one hand and UAE, Bahrain on the other hand, it became easy for other countries also to go in the Arab states or to go in the Middle East and do things, because this worked for the normalization of relations with Israel of UAE and Bahrain. Then now let's look at a prelims MCQ, and this talks about, these are two statements and you people need to tell me the right answer in the comment section. This is, I think you'll be able to do it, little easy one. So this talks about I2U2. Which among the following statement is or are correct regarding the I2U2? That it consists of India, Israel, US and Ukraine, the first statement. And the second statement talks about, it was earlier called the International Forum for Economic Cooperation. And you need to tell me the right answer, and the codes are 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. So in the end we will be looking into a mains practice question which states, what is I2U2 and why is it called the West Asian Quad? So I've given you a very simple and a very basic question this time. There are two commands, what and why. So keeping what and why in mind, you need to write and practice your answer writing practice. See, what is I2U2? So what do you have to write? You have to talk about all the 4 countries which are part of I2U2. What is the aim of I2U2? Then why is it called the West Asian Quad? So in one line you will also have to write about what is Quad, that it is a security alliance. So you also have to in one line write about Quad, and why is this I2U2 is called the West Asian Quad. So you need to write about all these points in this. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Till we meet next time, keep reading and keep writing.